It's always amazing how there appears to be no bottom to the barrel that is the race hustling industry in the United States of America, and there is no shortage of alleged news outlets willing to highlight cringy performances, stage plays, anything and everything that involves race hustling, and this Vice segment is no exception. Now, as you can tell by the title, which is Experimenting with White Privilege on Stage, you know for a fact that when I first saw this video, I had absolutely no control over myself and I had to watch it immediately. And what this actually features is a stage play that sounds absolutely like the worst, most boringest thing you could possibly do on a Saturday evening. That being said, there's always that race to dinner thing, which is where you pay $2,500 as a group of white women to be called racist while you serve the people who you're paying dinner. Whoever thought of that race hustle, whoever thought of that grift, congratulations to you. You have found a way to monetize white guilt. And much in that same way, this play is designed to monetize white guilt. It tells the tale of evil white people who are evil, white, and racist because they are in fact white people who are being wrong to black women, and it's written by a black woman. I can't believe how she got the inspiration for this to paint herself as this perpetual victim of all these evil white racists. And here's the way the Vice segment about this opens.
All right, fellas. Fantastic.
Get a load of the people who, by the very nature of this play, were cast to play the evil white racists who are just representatives of all the evil white people, which is 100% of them out there in the world. But before we get into this any further, before we dive into this treasure trove, this golden nugget that is Cringe, we gotta throw it over to our sponsor, and of course, that is Noble Gold. With all the crazy things going on in the world right now, it's no wonder you're worried about your future. Nobody knows what's gonna happen, and again, that creates panic. This is why you need to hedge against disaster and bet on the certainty of precious metal. Precious metals have been proven to be a hedge against inflation and financial turmoil, and this month, Noble Gold is offering, if you sign up for a qualified IRA, an American Virtue 3-ounce silver coin if you sign up for that qualifying IRA. You guys know what to do. Call them at 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
You guys are white men playing white men. So is it really acting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're being different white men.
And we're being white men who don't necessarily think like we do.
Yeah, we're saying things that we would never say.
Look, I understand that it's tough times out there. I understand that people are struggling. You need jobs. You need to put food on your family's table. But have some standards, have some pride, have some dignity. Don't go out and make a fool of yourself, humiliate yourself, and then compound that humiliation by appearing on this Vice segment where you are talking about a play where you play bumbling, idiotic, evil white racists, and this guy's like, well, since you're white, are you even really acting? And they're like, yes, we are actors. Please don't call us racist. Our white guilt compelled us to be here. We're actually getting paid much less money than we could have for other shows. We're just that white guilted. We're just that cowardly. Now, there's actually a great comment under this video. It's one of the top comments. I'm going to paraphrase it for you because I don't have it right in front of you. But imagine instead of this play about the evil white racist going after and just holding a black woman down, because we all know for sure 100% white people are just constantly holding black women down. They're preventing them from succeeding. Every time a white person sees a black woman, they reach out and they smack that success right out of their hands just so they could say, wow, how dare you, we don't want you to succeed, because that's what the evil white people do. They instead did a play about the urban-rural divide, because what these white people are doing, other than saying, I'm one of the good ones, I'm not one of those evil white racists, are essentially playing a caricature of white people that they imagine to exist that are not as cultured and sophisticated as them. Typically, these people are poor rural Americans that these people look down on, because what all this racism talk is about, what all this virtue signaling fundamentally is about, is elitism. These people think that they're better than those other people. They earn virtue points by portraying other white people as evil, white, stupid, racist rubes, and they want the social credit for it because they themselves look down on rural Americans. That's what we're seeing portrayed right here on this stage, and maybe this would be worthy of a more interesting discussion because people actually don't spend 100% of the time whining about that topic.
And we're being white men who don't necessarily think like we do.
Yeah, we're saying things that we would never say.
Yeah.
Like what? That's a real conversation. At a theater rehearsal?
That's a real conversation. You guys know how I feel about this. You know how I feel about the left's invocation of conversations that need to happen. How we all need to sit down and have a conversation. We just need to conversate about the topics. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's a real conversation. We're always going to talk perpetually about having a conversation, but never actually have a real conversation about anything. And we're always going to talk about all these people that want to avoid talking about race in the United States. They're not ready for this conversation. But we're having these conversations because the left is obsessed with talking about doing something without actually doing something. Anytime you want to talk about issues of race in the United States of America, I am game. Anytime you want to talk about issues of race outside of the United States of America, I am game. Anytime you want to compare the two and talk about how the United States comparatively is one of the least racist countries in the world right now as it stands, I'm game. But in reality, the race hustlers, the race grifters, the people who profit off of sowing division in the United States of America aren't actually ready and aren't actually willing to ever discuss those topics.
It took place in an altogether different time. Back then, I wasn't all that worried about being indoors with a group of white dudes or the viruses they might have been carrying.
Yes, you heard that right. This guy actually started filming this segment, which came out recently, 2 years ago. This was such a crucial story for Vice News that they paused it throughout the entirety of the COVID-19 pandemic, all the way through to when the vaccine came out, just so they could highlight this cringy, awful, embarrassing scene of white privilege on stage. On top of that, notice how he was talking about how all these evil white men carry viruses, even though statistically, if you're on the left, especially you believe this, the vaccine has been taken by white people at higher rates as a group than any other group of people in the United States of America, with the notable exception of Asian Americans. They've taken it more. So if you're going to go by the statistics, if you're going to make generalizations, which is stupid because, you know, this guy is on the left, he's in the media, he probably got his 15 boosters by now, you would say statistically, just based on that only little bit of knowledge, then you would be more likely to get the virus in a group of non-white people than a group of white people. That's just how it rolls.
Besides, they had a play that was about to open. MacArthur genius and National Book Award-winning poet Claudia Rankine's Help. Drawing from the author's real-life conversations during her travels across the U.S., Help is a funny, surreal, and often indignant look at the struggles of a black woman narrator as she moves through the world.
Drawing from her own personal conversations traveling around the nation. She had all these conversations, and she decided to put them in a play. It's a play about conversations. Conversations from this narrator having conversations, and it's very funny. Trust me, it's hilarious, but it's also all too real. It just gets you everywhere. This play is absolutely everything. We're going to play a clip of this play, and you're going to be laughing out loud. So do me a favor, sit down if you're standing up, because you might fall over if you're standing up ahead of this comedy. Let's play this clip because I'm sure you're gonna laugh so hard at it.
Did you hear the one about the white guy who stepped in front of a black woman onto an auction block? The black woman says, "It's okay, you can go first."
Oh, that was the joke. That was the joke. That was it right there. That was the comedy. I like how she did the she had to write that into the script because just like in this audience, nobody was laughing whenever she told that joke. Horrible delivery, embarrassing in every possible way, but sure. Great job. All too real right there. Or was that the laugh out loud, knee slapping hilarious part? Are you guys sitting down? I did prepare you to sit down before that joke came because wow. Such great comedying. What a great play. I'm sure you guys want to take your wife out there for a night on the town. $200 per ticket, probably. Sit up front, get embarrassed, get shamed by these evil white racists. They're so evil, white, and racist. They represent you because you're white, therefore you're evil and white and racist and evil and white and racist.
But then, history, like it does, just kind of happened.
A deadly and contagious virus from China has made its way into the U.S.
Almost overnight, putting on plays was on an indefinite hold.
Let's see, 2 years worth of lockdowns, the death of civil liberties, lots of Americans either getting sick or unfortunately passing away, or this play existing. Very difficult balancing act right here on which many people would prefer. Let me know your preference down in the comments below.
And while on hold, other historical moments of note were being made.
Other historical moments were being made, and they show a very peaceful section of the Black Lives Matter riots, the reign of terror that was the Black Lives Matter riots, and then they cut to the white people at January 6th, the darkest day in our republic, the day that our republic fell. Where were you January 6th when our republic fell? I was at a car dealership looking at a car, and in that time, in the car dealership, the car dealer was like, Sean, frame damage isn't serious damage. Please buy this car. And I said that was ridiculous. I said frame damage is very serious. And then I looked up on the television in the car dealership and I saw a Republic getting frame damage. That's where I was January 6th. Where were you January 6th? Where were you January 6th? Frame damage. Republic fell. Frame damage.
Not guilty.
So if you can't tell, the structure of the cuts, the historical moments that were happening all around us is bad, evil, white, racist thing versus good thing for the minorities and the people of color. We're making so much progress. But they just showed Kyle Rittenhouse being found not guilty. By the way, Kyle Rittenhouse's case had nothing to do with black people, except for the fact that the rioters in Kenosha were rioting over the 100% justifiable actions of the Kenosha police during the Jacob Blake incident, where Jacob Blake fought the cops, grabbed a knife, jumped in a car with children. He wasn't allowed to have the car, and he wasn't allowed to take possession of the children, and the cops had to decide whether or not they were going to let this violent criminal who had already fought the cops, tank 2 tasers, run off and get into a potentially deadly pursuit with children in the back car, or stop Jacob Blake. It was 100% justified. All the myth-making around it caused the Kenosha riots. Kyle Rittenhouse came down to help out during the Kenosha riots. He was attacked by left-wing activists and crazed people released from a mental asylum, and he defended himself. It's all 100% on video. That's considered the bad thing, but the good thing, to contrast that, is Kamala Harris being sworn in. That's considered the achievement, Kamala Harris being sworn in. And these two examples may not seem related, they may seem completely stupid and separate, but here's the thing, it's actually the perfect example of the difference between the left and the right in this country right now. Because if you read Lucky, how Joe Biden barely won the presidency, which documents all the different campaigns, what you'll find out is that the Biden campaign absolutely hated Kamala Harris. They didn't want to pick her, nobody liked her, but they felt they were obligated to pick her because Biden promised to pick a woman, and due to the Black Lives Matter riots, they thought it would be more suiting for him to pick a black woman, so Kamala Harris was chosen as the mascot of the Joe Biden campaign. The Kyle Rittenhouse case was about the right to self-defense, specifically in the state of Wisconsin, but it was also about whether or not there would be a chilling effect nationwide when the government wanted to come down on what was obviously the most apparent self-defense case ever caught from wire to wire on video. Kyle Rittenhouse being found not guilty validates an actual right that people can retain in the state of Wisconsin. It shows that due process and our justice system works, and it shows us that even when the media, politicians, and powerful people from across the country try to put their thumb on the scale, our system of government, our system of rights, our rights of the accused can actually endure through all of that. Kamala Harris is a mascot. She wasn't chosen because she ran a good campaign. She wasn't chosen because she had all the support. Kamala Harris didn't get a single vote in the election. She was polling at around 3% when she dropped out, and Joe Biden himself was the person who carried the black voters in the Democratic primary. She was just chosen for aesthetic reasons. She is a mascot, a symbol that underlines absolutely nothing, no achievement, no rights, nothing like that. Her career is a history of failing upwards and doing shady things to continually access power and advantage for herself at the expense of her political opponents. So yeah, when you're contrasting an actual victory for individual rights versus a mascot, you're really showing your hand.
I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
So they show the clip of the Central Park girl, Amy Cooper, who, by the way, did not make a false report to the police. Christian Cooper's own Facebook post, I will put it on screen for you for the millionth time, actually admits that he was intimidating her like he was going to take away her dog, because he, in fact, was the Karen in this situation, and reportedly had been harassing people not walking their dog with a leash in Central Park so many different times that there have been previous complaints about him. That's why Amy Cooper wasn't actually convicted of anything. That's why the charges were dropped. That's why she's suing the people involved for smearing her as a racist, because when you go beyond her hysteria, which, by the way, she was being hysterical, like dog moms would be in that situation, if you're any race of man, please imply that you're going to steal any race of woman's dog in the park and see if you don't get a very similar treatment. If somebody was around, you might actually get beat up for doing that. But that's an example of racism in this, even though with extra context, it is a provably false example, and we ultimately end up on Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Wouldn't you know it? Here we are, 2 years later, and we're still talking about a black woman in a room full of white men.
Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Senator.
Now, I know somebody's going to point out, because somebody always points this out in the comment section of every video where I bring up this point, that Hispanics can be white. So I understand that in theory, but in the United States, we typically do not consider Hispanics white. Calm down, everybody relax. It's different in Latin America. We get that. We all understand that. Chillax. I don't want to hear your nonsense. We just saw a Latin American senator question a black woman, but the implication from the Vice piece is that there's something wrong about Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is being appointed to the Supreme Court, being confirmed by the Senate because of the ethnic makeup of the United States Senate. I'm sorry, but you're being put on the highest court in the land, so yes, you're going to have to deal with questions and scrutiny, and the idea that this was a ridiculous question is patently absurd. Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to rule on multiple different race-related crimes. If she has the underlying belief that white people from the time that they're babies are evil white racists, that might skew her rulings going forward. So her saying, Senator, and then them cutting the clip before her answer doesn't prove anything except for the fact that Vice thinks that Ketanji Brown Jackson should basically be a god and not subject to any of the same hearings as anybody else, and how dare these people ask her questions in a hearing designed to ask somebody questions about whether or not they should be on the Supreme Court. Ketanji Brown Jackson, such a hero. Kamala Harris, so stunning, so brave, so beautiful.
After a long 2-year pause, Claudia's play is making a much-needed return to the stage in New York City.
I am here, not as I, but as we, a representative of my category, the approximately 8% of the U.S. population known as black women.
Woo! Yeah, go do it. Represent your category. Don't think of people as individuals. Just think of them as blocks of humans based on their race and gender. Woo! 8% of the population. Woo! I'm here. Wow, so beautiful. It was so great how she basically begged for that applause by saying black women.
Within this category, there are many names for me. Diamond and Silk, Maxine Waters. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, 100% that bitch. Let's face it, I am a marked woman, but not everybody knows my name.
Just by the writing of that portion of the speech, you know for a fact that this play is going to be so good. She was like, there are many names for me. Then she named 3 names. Then she spelled out respect, like that song. And then she said something else that I forgot because I was nodding off because it was so interesting. It actually put me to sleep.
I wanted the play to sincerely embark on a journey to find out what especially white men, but white people, are thinking about their own dominance in this culture, a culture that is set up for their survival.
You know, the one thing I agree with in terms of this play is, in fact, the title of the play, which is not putting white privilege on stage. That is the title of the Vice video. The title of this play is Help. And honestly, these people need some kind of help. Imagine being this obsessed with other groups of people that you base your entire life and your life's work around it. Now, I understand there's financial incentives to do so, but when I listen to these people, when I hear them out, when I see their facial expressions when they're describing the thing that they're race hustling off of, you could tell that there's an underlying sadness within them. They're defining their entire existence in opposition to another group of people who, by the way, is not actively working against them. If we could just see past this, if we could just move on, if we could just accept people as people and just go for it, and black people as individuals or as a group in a general way could focus more on themselves, more on helping themselves, then they would be in a better position in the United States of America. And we, a nation as a whole, would be in a better position if we actually actively try to move on from these past traumas that are so pervasive that they've somehow gotten worse in recent years, rather than get bogged down in them, rather than use them as excuses for everything. Then we would actually move on as a society, and again, they would be so much better off. We would all be so much better off. But instead, we have to rehash this stuff over and over again. We have to hear about victimization over and over again. We have to celebrate people, give them awards, talk about how great they are for pointing out all these injustices, while never focusing on the fact that they're profiting off of race hustling, and this is actually what's holding a huge portion of the black population down. Not focusing on the issues within is a problem. I'm sure you guys have heard that you have to get your own household in order first before you start focusing on your neighbors, but what's going on with these race hustlers is that they're constantly advocating for the neighborhood to fix the internal problems within the family, and that's just never going to work as a plan. That's just going to leave you stalled all the time at the point that you're at and never move forward, and unfortunately slowly inch backwards. And I don't say that based on intuition, I don't say that based on my feelings, I don't say that based on superstition, I say that based on the pattern of history. History is full of oppressed minorities who have had the system rigged against them in one way or another. And you know what a lot of those oppressed minorities did? They ended up out-succeeding the majority population. We've covered it multiple different times on this channel, so I won't go into it here, but I will leave you some links in the description so you can read up on these minority groups that are often discriminated against, not to hold them down, but because they're more successful than their overall majority group.
Culture that is set up for their survival.
I'm not demonizing, I'm historicizing.
But you are demonizing. You're obviously demonizing. Did you not see them dancing like total psychopaths around the American flag? And she said multiple different times that she's representative of black women and all these white people are representative of white people. So we get a hard cut from them dancing around like psychopaths around the American flag to them all doing the Hitler salute right after that. So yes, you are demonizing. You're demonizing the United States of America, you're demonizing white people as a whole, and you're demonizing a lower class rural Americans that happen to be white, because that's what this is all about. You thumbing your nose from your position of privilege at people who can't fight back against you, at people who actually don't have much power in the United States, and at people who don't really generate a lot of sympathy for themselves, because a lot of people with platforms like myself don't live in rural communities. They don't interact with these kind of people, so it's easy just to throw out stereotypes, make fun of their accents, talk about how they're racist and backwards and all this stuff. And that's exactly what you're feeding into. This is elitism attacking middle America types. And it doesn't help black Americans to do this. Regular black Americans that care about their families, that are actually working difficult jobs in order to make ends meet, don't have time to go to expensive plays about white privilege to watch this woman rake it in her race hustle.
But as time has gone on, I realized that the world was writing the play. Mm-hmm. And so it's become a much more citational product.
This is just embarrassing. So the play already seemed awful. It was already based on false premises and a desire to race hustle, and it perpetuates a narrative that doesn't help anybody in the United States of America, least among them black Americans right here in this great nation. But now she's just going full hack writer mode, and instead of using allegory, instead of actually having characters that can represent and your brain can make that connection, she's just quoting from headlines in order to make a thing happen. It's embarrassing in every possible way. But we're supposed to be impressed that she's just ripping stuff from a headline and forcing it into a narrative that was supposed to be personal about her own life, but now just has everything in the headlines, because you know what? The society was writing the play. The play was being written by the news headlines on my Twitter feed. Wow. Thanks, Vice, for coming.
And so what you will see in this new iteration is a play that America wrote, that only began with me, but now opens out to everybody from Trump to, Amy Cooper to anyone who has made it into the news in the last 2 years.
From Trump to Amy Cooper, who again wasn't in the wrong in that situation. She might have freaked out because she's a dog mom, but we've went over that multiple different times. And anybody who's been in the news for the last 2 years. I'm a totally hack writer, but I knew that if I said I was kind of making it a rebuke against Trump, I could get Vice to come out, even on a 2-year delay, and worship the ground that I walk on and say, wow, that's so stunning, so brave. It's like most writers write a play, but you decided to just put headlines in your play and then say America wrote it, and it's so amazing. So why am I even interviewing you and not America? Oh, wait, because it's still all about you, and we still have to give you money. Wow.
The list of figures that the play quotes is expansive and pretty eclectic.
5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Again, I spot Kyle Rittenhouse in there. I spot Ivanka Trump, Newt Gingrich, all the evil white racist Republicans make it in there. Amy Cooper, of course, because this play is all about just regurgitating headlines. You could just read the news, but why would you do that when you could spend $500 giving this lady a ticket so that way you could watch this play that's just a replay of the headlines? It's so beautiful. Wow, Vice segment, great job. Vice News, amazing. First class. Top tier all the way. Gonna go to Ticketmaster. Order this right now to Ticketmaster.
Do you think it's possible for black people in America to live in a way that is not reactionary to white people?
So this is a basic question. Can black Americans live in a way that's not centered around white people? And you would hope the answer would be yes. And by the way, for a lot of black Americans, the answer is yes. But she's going to give a non-answer. It's just word vomit. I don't even feel like playing it, but I'll play some of it for you guys.
So as black people, we're constantly navigating that. We know that we're in management mode. We know that there are forces that are overdetermined. Things we can't control, how the police treat our children when they're out in the street, how teachers teach our children in the classrooms, how we ourselves are treated by colleagues and friends.
This is an ideology of hopelessness. This is an ideology, ironically, of servitude. It's not about what you, an independent agent, can do on your own and affect the circumstances around you. It's all about the things that you can't control and how it's basically really difficult because we're in management mode. We're navigating this. We can't control how the police treat us. We can't control how the police treat our children, how the teachers treat our children. We can't control how our colleagues treat our children. But here's the thing. What you can control and what you should always focus on for everybody, this isn't just unique to black Americans, it's unique to humanity as a whole, is what you can control. And I guarantee you, when you act differently, people will respond to you in different ways. This is the most obvious thing in the world, but as you can see, it's all about victimization and externalization of problems rather than internalization. For any group anywhere in the world that's struggling, for any individual that is struggling, 90% of your problems are things that you can change about yourself. The 10% that you can't change, you can reduce them, you can mitigate them as best you can, but really, you should focus on the 90%. This is like if you're in a boat and there's a small little pinhole and that's going to sink the boat, maybe possibly before you reach the shore, but there's also a big hole blasted in the center of the floor of the boat. You should probably focus on that big hole in the center of the boat rather than the little pinhole that could sink you at some point. The thing that's gonna sink you is the things that you should be in control, you should be working against.
I need a narrative that includes your whiteness as part of the diagnosis.
You know, whenever you're doing a little featurette like this, you're always trying in part to sell the play. You're always trying to put out the highlights of the play. None of the clips, none of the lines, nothing presented out there in the audience, I'm sure, would make anybody want to see this. I need a narrative that includes your own whiteness as the diagnosis. What is this conversation in the context of? Is she actually talking to a doctor and asking the doctor to include her evil whiteness in the diagnosis that she's dealing with? They were just talking about health prior to this. Who the hell knows? It just isn't interesting. It's not compelling. Nobody should go see this play because it's so boring. The only people in the theater should be the 50-odd white people who are being overpaid because nobody should be paid to be in this show because this show should generate zero money for anyone.
Who is it that you're speaking to?
Look, the last question is about who this play is for, and honestly, I'm not interested in it anymore. I think I've explained what this is all about pretty well for you guys out there on the internet.com, and now I want to know what you guys think. Do you think plays like this help, or they only sow division further in this nation? Do you want to get a ticket to this? Are you going to drop $1,000 on those box seats, take your nice lady out, or maybe take your gentleman out? I'm not judgmental. I'm the actual Justice. We're a super progressive channel. Trust me, we're so progressive over here. Let me know all those things down in the comments below. If you like this video, you show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about Vice, featuring yet another stupid thing about white privilege. Till next time.